Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Let me start with some macro thoughts. This is the VIX. This chart is from Holger. It's a great source of charts, I must admit. And to give an idea of how people see volatility and risk. Now, obviously, the big story is Facebook. It fell another 4%. That's down more than 10% in the last 2 days. For those who like their technicals, shares are now below the 200-day moving average, according to Jamie at Reuters. And not one analyst who will come to that has changed their recommendation. But essentially, let me be so bold and say sell it. And sell it hard. Even though we're down 10%, we've got more to go. Facebook is having a week. That's AP Business, another chart. Zuckerberg and Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg haven't yet spoken publicly about the data leak, despite the global firestorm. That is simply mind-boggling. 2-day rout is the worst since July 2012, the year of Facebook's initial public offering at $38 a share. Listen to this. Out of the 43 analysts who recommend buying Facebook shares, not one has downgraded the stock over the crisis. This is a serious existential type crisis, actually. Because the key point here is that Facebook facilitated the interference by foreign power in the electoral process. I mean, if you hold anything dear, you've got to hold the integrity of your electoral process dear. And I think it's quite extraordinary, actually, that it's not being seen in that sort of black and white way that I'm describing, and that it's become very blurred. And I think I keep thinking, how does one explain that? And essentially, I've kind of come around to the point of view that people admire President Trump's chutzpah. He did what he had to do to get into the White House, even though what he did is transpiring to be really quite egregious. Facebook just lost more than Tesla's entire market cap in 2 days. Think about that. Tencent recently overtook Facebook to become the world's 5th most valuable company. It's from David Inglis. Home thoughts. The rhino is a magnificent creature which connects us, I feel, to our deep past. Rest in peace, Sudan. You were loved. This is a photograph of Sudan, who's passed away, Japicha K.E. A rhinoceros, meaning nose horned, from rhinos, meaning nose, and kerato, keras, meaning horn, commonly abbreviated to rhino, is one of any 5 extant species of odd-toed unguluids in the family Rhinocerotidae, as well as any of the numerous extinct species. 2 of the extant species are native to Africa and 3 to southern Asia. And I was reading a book which was describing the Tsavo National Park, must have been about 50, 60 years ago, and in a clearing exercise they killed 900 rhinos. And obviously at that time it wasn't considered, we weren't, that no one was really going down that conservation route. These are 2 male rhinos that I saw at Lower Wildlife. Estimated percentage by which human activity has decreased the distance mammals roam is 66%, according to Harper's. This is another photograph of rhino in the Nairobi National Park, where they've now driven the train through. And then these photographs caught my attention. From the 28th of December last year, the Iwaso-Nyiro River is the lifeline of the animals living in the Samburu. Great shot here of a pair of lionesses quenching their thirst at the river at sunset. And then this from the January the 20th, this afternoon lion sighting in Samburu along the dry Iwaso-Nyiro River. And then this photograph from March the 1st, sand harvesters caught unawares by floods on the river Iwaso Nero in Samburu County. That's from Steve Kariukis, just to give you a flavour of the change in the landscape. Political reflections. President Trump welcomes Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the White House. This is a video issued by the State Department. Hervé tweets, "It's the art of the deal, supported by a PowerPoint-like presentation." Redcap Man replying to Hervé and myself, "It was like he's trying to provoke the Saudis to revolt." It was an extraordinary and surreal television, it really was. Prince Al-Walid, "It's not easy to be held against your will. I have complete serenity, complete comfort, and no grudge and no bad feelings at all," he said. This is a photograph from Jerome Sassini's a sandstorm near Ramadi, Baghdad, Iraq, 2003. It's an endless war. This was a tweet from President Poroshenko, who's been reaching out to the Emir of Qatar, apparently. Reporter, Channel 4 News, said the candidate is a puppet. Cambridge Analytica, always. And then Frank Hook, on some other discussion of mine, at one point said, "Oft puppets cannot see the strings from which they dangle and really believe that their motions are their own." Exposed undercover secrets of Trump's data firm Cambridge Analytica. I think I've watched 2 parts now. Mr. Nix boasted about Cambridge Analytica's work for Trump, saying, "We did all the research, all the data, all the analytics, all the targeting. We ran all the digital campaign, the television campaign, and our data informed all the strategy." Sometimes you can use proxy organizations who are already there. You feed them. They are civil society organizations, charities, or activist groups, and we use them, feed them the material, and they do the work. We just put information into the bloodstream to the internet and then watch it grow. Give it a little push every now and again, over time, to watch it take shape. And so this stuff infiltrates the online community and expands, but with no branding, so it's unattributable, untraceable. Executives claim they ran all the digital campaign, the television campaign, and our data informed all the strategy. In one exchange, Alexander Nix revealed the company used a secret self-destructing email system that leaves no trace. He said no one knows we have it, and secondly, we set our emails with the self-destruct timer, so you send them, and after they've been read 2 hours later, they disappear. There's no evidence, there's no paper trail, there's nothing. So the candidate is the puppet, the undercover reporter asked. Always, replied Mr. Nix. You can have all the hardware in the world, and President Trump was speaking about spending $715 billion on the military this year, this year in the US. But this Kremlin, Putin, WikiLeaks, Jared Kushner, Cambridge Analytica, Mercer, they've turned out to be interesting characters. Steve Bannon intervention has had a simply parabolic return on investment. How much do you think they spent to win that? Interesting short clip on Bloomberg TV. How can Facebook data be manipulated using psychographic targeting? And then I take you back to my piece, We Have a Deviate Tomahawk. I said then my starting point is the election of President Trump, because hindsight will surely show that Russia ran a seriously sophisticated program of interference, mostly digital. Now we've got much more clarity and visibility on how that played out. I said then on the 5th of December, I've no doubt Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference, which amplified the Trump candidacy. And I said then, the first thing is plausible deniability, and this is interesting to watch it unfold. The second thing is non-linearity. You have to learn how to navigate a linear system, which is the 21st century digital ecosystem, in a non-linear manner. And then I was also saying that traditional media had been disrupted and the insurgents can broadcast live and over the top, and this is what Cambridge Analytica were doing. From feeding the hothouse frenzy online, a constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks leaks, which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's, what we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. And then I was quoting Don Pelido's, we have a DB8. And I just love that thing. The voice in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon is a mélange of repartee, laughter and song. Quality of purest, sweetest sense. Soupçon de financement libyen, Nicolas Sarkozy placé en garde à vue. That's Sarkozy. He took a whole lot of cash from Colonel Gaddafi and then promptly knocked him off. It's me who made him president, Gaddafi said in an interview recorded in 2011. Probably got him knocked off. Was speaking in Tripoli in mid-March, just a few days before the Western strikes that led to his downfall and killing by militias in October 2011. Former president's alleged ties with Gaddafi came under the spotlight again in November 2016 in an interview with Mediapart Zayed Taqidian. The man who introduced Sarkozy to Gaddafi confessed having brought several suitcases containing 5 million euros prepared for the Libyan regime to the Ministry of the Interior in late 2006 and early 2007. It was a case like that. It opened like this and the money was inside, he said in a film. Taking back to October 2011 and a piece I wrote, Gaddafi's body in a freezer, what's the message? Xi Jinping says to Narendra Modi, I would like to enhance communication with Prime Minister on the overall long-term strategic issues in China and India ties, as well as global and regional situations, so as to enhance political mutual trust. I said, now that Narendra Modi is surrounded by Xi Jinping on all sides, I'm sure we'd like to enter into a discussion. Currency markets, let's take a look at that. Euro dollar 122.73, dollar index 90.41, Japanese yen 106.37, Swiss franc 0.9549, the pound 140.25, the Australian dollar, where's that, 0.7703, India rupee 65.225, South Korean won 1071.75, Brazilian real 331.31, Egyptian pound 1760.63, and the South African rand is firmer at 1195.01, just by it above 12. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart, as I said. I prefer to be long with a stop at 88. Euro dollar, I feel it's losing momentum, but this is not the right place to sell it. You want it a little bit higher, closer to that key resistance level of 125.60. Gold up and down, but it's around $1,315 an ounce. Crude oil futures rallied 2.27% on NYMEX yesterday to settle at $63.54 a barrel. You know, we went down and got pretty close to 60, but then we staged a recovery. I think 60 remains the key level, and 65.50 is going to be difficult to crack. Pakistan's currency falls to a record low, that's according to Christopher Kay. Pre-Mandela du Courage to Nkurunziza, which translates the real Mandela must be spinning in his grave. This is about the esteemed President of Burundi, Pierre Nkurunziza. Zimbabwe President Emerson Mnangagwa is seen here arriving in Rwanda for the AFCFTA 2018 talks, from which President Buhari is conspicuously absent. The Africa we want is not a slogan, it is our sincere wish to make it happen. That's Louise Mushikiwabo, who was once my guest at Mindspeak, and is a very articulate foreign minister. Africa trades far less with itself than it does with the rest of the world. Have a look at these statistics. Good South Africa morning. South Africa's leading indicator rose to its highest level in 5 years. January, that's from JS Blockland, And growth in South Africa's real GDP accelerated to an annualized rate of 3.1% in the fourth quarter of 2017, marking the third consecutive rate above 2%. South African all shares down 2.04% year to date. Dollar rand, this is a 6-month chart. You know, I'm bullish, I'm looking for 11. We could go above 12, that's the place to buy it. Nigerian all shares up 9% year to date. Ghana is to name 4 lead advisors for a $2.5 billion Eurobond sale. The exporter of cocoa, gold and oil is seeking to raise $2.5 billion to pay off debt and finance its 2018 budget. Stanchart, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank will advise on the bond sale, the sources said. It's been some good solid days for sub-Saharan African sovereign issuers, a lot of liquidity in the Eurobond market. As I said, Ghana Stock Exchange is up a whopping 26.44% year to date. I remind you of a tweet I sent to Martina Stivis on the 26th of July 2016 when the Mozambique Eurobond was collapsing. And I said it's a trading buy. Mozambique $727 million in Eurobonds due 2023 fell for a third day on Tuesday, closing at $84.05. They were well below 50 in that downdraft. Mozambique is proposing a haircut that bondholders swiftly rejected, proposed writing off some of its Eurobonds and other external debts as it began restructuring negotiations by saying it would struggle to repay principal for the next decade. A group of Eurobond holders rejected the proposals as a total non-starter. And then there's plenty of detail about the various proposed instruments. They're going to have to pony up much more at the back end if they want to have a sort of interest-free run for the next few years. Maputo from the sea, this is a photograph I took when I visited, and this is another one, Maputo evening. It's a very beautiful city on the Indian Ocean, lovely seafood, wonderful atmosphere. It's got that sort of Lusophone atmosphere. Interest rate law watering down our policy roles, says the Central Bank of Kenya. Following the MPC meeting in January 2018, it was noted there was scope for accommodative monetary policy. However, interest rate caps had created an environment of possible perverse outcomes, thus constraining the MPC from using the CBR rate to signal its policy stance. Going forward, under the interest rate capping regime, there is no guarantee the central bank will be able to achieve its intended objectives. In the interest rate capping environment, use of the CBR will result in perverse outcomes. So this is meaning that, they can cut rates, but it's not transmitting to the economy. And that's because of the interference caused by the rate cut, which everyone agrees with generally. Kenya Airways has reported 9-month earnings through the 31st of December. Total income declined 23.973%. Operating profit actually improved 45.596%. Loss before income tax was 5.96 billion versus 10.2 billion the previous time. Basic loss per share, but remember they've issued many more shares, was 1 shilling and 4 cents a share. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period was 6.356 billion shillings versus 9.186 billion shillings previously. Domestic traffic, they said, dropped by 20% during the prolonged election period last year. These were our financial highlights, taking into account operations, staffing, as well as tax. That was from a tweet they issued. We faced a number of challenges in the period. These were the most notable of them. That's Kenya Airways again. Fuel price increase and prolonged electioneering period had the biggest impact on our results. Sebastian Mikosh. 2017 started on a good note, but was later affected by the political climate in the country from August into the end of the year. However, we recorded improvements in our numbers. That's Chairman Michael Joseph. Kenya Airways flew 3.4 million passengers over this period. Looked like it slowed down big in Q3, Q4 was my first observation. And we really need to understand how much room there is on this balance sheet post the restructuring exercise in order for them to not just play defense but play some offense as well. Centum Investments announced it has divested from Gen Africa Asset Managers after 4 years, selling its 73.4% stake to Kuramo Capital for an unknown amount. The official announcement, as was received from the stock exchanges, you can link on it via rich wrap-ups. Centum is up 5.714% year to date, and trades on a trading PE of just 4.231. There have been a lot of transactional based P&L, which is probably why we got that PE haircut. Nairobi Oil shares up 10.17% and closed at a record all-time high again yesterday. Safaricom is up 14.95% year to date and closed at a record high as well. It's been in a multi-year bull channel for a number of years, and it continues to trade within that channel. Interesting thing I learned from Sandra Ojiambo, Safaricom staff, female staff, the majority are under 30. Important to have a workplace where employees can thrive. East African Brewers is up 6.722% this year, closed at a 2018 high yesterday. Barclays Africa and Barclays Kenya have reset the narrative, and that explains the steep 28.125% rally in the share price of Barclays Kenya. Total, and the oil marketeers have done well as well. Total is up 27.659% year to date. Kenon Kobel is up 27.5% year to date. NSE 20 is up 3.73% year to date. KenGen is now up 6.43% year to date, and interestingly crossed overhead resistance yesterday, which means that it's now set fair to go up towards 10. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I'm actually going to Uganda this afternoon, so there will not be a podcast tomorrow, for which I kindly ask forgiveness.